to you, James.
Thanks, Cassie, for the introduction. Thank you, everyone, for joining us today. Anthony, we're glad to have you today. And we are going to talk about a trend that we are seeing across the self-storage industry and some challenges that this trend is giving everyone. So I'm currently meeting about 3 to 4 storage companies every single day, and there's a wide range of where people sit when they're doing contactless, touchless, everyone has different names for it, their storage facilities. And I think at the heart of it, it's like, how can I take care of more facilities or my current facilities, but with less staff, right? Or less pull on my bottom line, right? I think that's what it comes down to, but it means like, okay, I've got to understand how to use technology a little bit more. There's a lot of change management for my team. There's also change management for my customers, our prospects, and it's a lot to take on, you know, and how do I take the bites of the elephant, and how do I kind of keep up where the industry is going or keep up against competition, or because everybody seems to be at a different stage in their evolution of how they're managing their facilities and how they're working with their customers. So we want to talk through that, but also ultimately, how do we not lose the human touch? Like if there's nobody on site, how does it not become just a sterile facility? How can there still be that warm touch to the customers, but also in a way that, you know, the owners and the staff can handle? So I know you get a front line at this, Anthony. You're currently working through this yourself with other companies as well. But talk to me a little bit about this trend of remote management and technology and what you're seeing from your point of view.
Well, I can really come back to say, you know, the go back to 2020. Everybody during COVID kind of was, it's an unfortunate situation that was all going on, but everything shut down. So one thing that it really did was take self-storage, the industry itself, which has typically been slower to adapt to new technology, new things and stuff like that, and it put it to the gas pedal. I mean, they had to come up with different innovations for customers to still be able to rent units, to be able to still get access to their, you know, to their items that are in storage and stuff like that. So it really, really pushed the technology that came along and development, you know, within the different softwares and third-party softwares that come along with that. But one of the things though too is trying to work out is how do we still be able to communicate with our tenants? How do we still be able to give them the customer service that they deserve? So that was one of the things, trends that really has pushed self-storage into, you know, remote operations. And through that, the technology has come, and people are figuring out their own ways, different ways to run facilities remotely, and be able to manage several different facilities remotely. So
yeah, absolutely. And it's difficult, right? Because you get a lot of technology kind of thrown your way, especially if you haven't really had to do it for the past few decades. If you're new onto the scene, you're learning. There's a lot of this kind of learning curve. And how do we get what I like to call practical and tactical? We're like, what are the few things that we can do, especially knowing that some of our customers are maybe not as tech savvy, maybe more in rural areas, maybe like not ready for it. How do I onboard the ones that are ready and then be patient with the ones that aren't and still kind of come alongside them to make sure that they're happy and they're continuing to rent with me month over month? Maybe you could talk to us a little bit, like if I'm a self-storage owner and I want to become contactless or do more contactless things, what are some things that I should do maybe to start with, or how do I get going on this journey?
I think one of the things that really makes a difference is, you know, the softwares out there that have, especially the past few years that have come out, have really allowed us to do that. They've come out, you know, you'll be able to text, you'll be able to email your customers, communicate through just specifically through your software and the other things that are coming out. So being able to sign up, you know, send out contracts, or be able to, you've seen it even with bigger REITs, the bigger guys, even down to the smaller ones now. Even on the facility that I own, that's basically what I do about everything. My facility I own is 7.5 hours away from me. And so then what happens is I manage my facility from here, send contracts, communicate everything else, you know, can text back and forth, and really push that, you know, that technology to be able to run facilities that way.
Right.
Yep.
And there's a lot of options that are in front of people, right? So you just mentioned you're 7.5 hours away from your facility. way back when that would be unheard of, right? You would need to be living at your facility, but now you're managing it from 8 hours away, where it's not practical for you to just hop in the car and go handle a customer issue. But you might have some folks that are 1099s or folks on staff that are close that can handle things on site. But talk to me a little about going a little bit more remote, like hiring my first remote staff to do call center, or maybe I'm hiring someone overseas, or maybe I'm hiring a third party, right, to do some of this management for me, and maybe I'm not sure about what direction should I go, because I'm hearing all kinds of things from people relying on third parties, starting to do call centers overseas, so some people actually bringing some more people back in-house, but creating their own call centers in-house. What are you seeing from that end? Where are the positives, the negatives? Like, talk to me a little bit more about like remote and like call center type agents.
So the call center, I think some of the biggest things that people are looking at now is still being able to have if they're hiring a call center, I think one of the biggest things is be able to have a call center experienced with your own facility. There's a difference between, you can hire, somebody overseas or somebody like that to manage the phones and stuff like that. But somebody who is more dedicated to your facility is where I really see, there's a huge difference. They know your facility. You can communicate with them different nuances of, each facility is absolutely different. The layout's different, everything's different. And so that's where I really see, as far as, having a call center or something able to communicate with somebody who knows your facility that well and give that better customer experience. It just overall improves everything. I can kind of give you like example. Just yesterday, I've run two facilities. At my facility, I was talking to the gal, and she had never rented storage before. And she's like, how does this all work? How everything like that? And I was able to actually talk to her. I'm not trying to promote and use LiveSwitch, but I actually did yesterday. Hey, jump on this video call and you can actually see who I am. I can explain things to you. I can show things to you that you may not be able to understand. And it was her first time ever renting self-storage. She sold her house. She's got moved. Different things are going on in her life. So, like I said, I think really knowing your facility and be able to do that way.
Right, and I think embracing things like we've been talking to owner operators who's just one person facility, all the way to publicly traded self-storage companies, right? And I came out of Fortune 500 for a while. I spent 12 years and I stood up an office overseas in Sao Paulo, Brazil, right? And the great thing was, hey, I could get people of just high quality or even higher caliber quality people at a third of the cost. Now, it took me like flying over there, getting that started, but it became the biggest part of one of our Fortune 500 segments, right? And so, if I'm an owner operator, like I'm never going to do that. But I've talked to owner operators who have their customer success team, their call centers in South America, and have been very successful with it. And the quality of the team members there can be very high. So if you're kind of apprehensive or, I'm not sure, I think it's one of those things where you kind of got to ease into it slowly, and it can help you, especially with the 24/7 coverage. I hear a lot about that, 24/7 coverage, and how do I get people when it's 2 a.m. Like, have you experienced, and how do you tackle, or have you advise folks when they're looking at 24/7 coverage or overseas help?
I really think it comes down to the training. How you may find somebody who's really, really well. But honestly, if you are looking at hiring somebody overseas, to make sure that not necessarily like a script word for word or something like that, but really down to that training of how you train them to, it's a sales thing. It's not just customer service, but it is sales. Because once somebody is calling you for self-storage, that is a need, that's not a want. I don't want to call James and say, hey James, how about we get together and go shopping for self-storage for fun this afternoon, just for fun. It's definitely, self-storage is definitely a need-based, something that's changed in their life, death, divorce, disaster. That's usually what brings on, or moving, that's usually what brings on it. So you want to be able to get that person, good sales training as far as listening to the customer, what they need for, why they're moving, what items are they all moving, and that sales process in for what, and make sure they're getting the right size unit, make sure that you are trying to close that sale, because as soon as they get off the phone, there may be, depending on your area, there may be 5, 6 other facilities within their market.
That's right. Yeah, it's easy for people just to drive down the street, right? You want to be able to capture them and give them that human touch that we're talking about. And that human touch is becoming more of this, like you and I speaking, right? Like it's one thing to chat with somebody on the keyboard. It's another thing to even talk to someone on the phone. But when you see someone, we've even seen in other industries, the likelihood of closing that prospect to become a customer is that much more higher. It's harder to tell people no looking at them in the eyes. It just really is. So if they're on site, you're giving them great service, you're doing it whether you're half a world away or at the facility, walking them around, having that warm connection, we have seen not just in self-storage, but outside of it, is a key way to close more business and retain more business, because people sometimes need to talk to somebody. And that can be expensive, but there's other ways to mitigate that. Like thinking about some other things to consider, right? We've been talking about call centers here recently and closing deals, but what about just the operations side, the maintenance side? How are you doing that 8 hours away when there's something going on? The lawn needs to be mowed, painting, toilets need to be fixed. How are you doing that so far away?
So some of it goes to I have what Monday.com is what I use, but as well as using LiveSwitch that I'm very fortunate to have with our with our boots on the ground, our maintenance personnel who is at the facility there. What I'm able to do is send him a text message saying, hey, or he texts me, he says, hey, Anthony, I can't, there's something going on. There's a leak in this corner of this unit. I can see that there was water here. And I was like, well, if I can look at pictures all day, but it's not going to exactly tell me. And I can't communicate with him back and forth. All right, can you put the camera up in this area or this area so that I can kind of see what's going on? And so what I'm able to do is, this was an incident where I sent him the text, he jumped on, it was recording it, and I got a good view of kind of what was going on. And with that, I was able to, obviously it was out of his scope of what he was able to fix. So I was able to call a contractor, take the video and send it over to the contractor. Hey, here's what's going on at the property. Can, in this exact unit, this exact area, can you go take a look at this, give me an estimate on what it's going to be to fix and get this taken care of, because I want to get this unit back online. Obviously, I'm not going to rent it if I know that there's an issue or something going on with it. So we're able to take care of, maintenance and stuff different, just as an example in that unit.
Yeah, and that's a 1-2 punch, right? You're getting to see it yourself, diagnose it, get the help while recording it in case, what if you have to submit a claim to your insurance company, right? And vice versa. Just having that recorded documentation becomes, it's not important until you need it. It's not important until it's important, right? It's not important until you have a leak. It's not important until you have a claim. I had someone I met with yesterday. I was like, oh, I wish you would have called me like a year ago. I actually had a lawsuit come on, and if I would have had these things recorded, it would have prevented it. So there's just some things it's like, you don't really like paying for insurance until you need it. It can be one of those things too, but we're all watching our bottom line. So finding different ways to like save a trip out, and for you having to hop in a truck 8 hours there and back again, or even having to fly out to something, that can add up pretty fast. So being able to manage your stuff remotely. Is there anything else you can think of when it comes to like, go ahead. It looks like you have a thought.
I was going to say, just even for me sending that over to the contractor, so that I'm not trying to explain to him through pictures of saying, hey, can you see this or this or this? It was super simple to download and send it on over and say, hey, here's the unit, here's the combination to that unit, here's exactly kind of what's going on, a little bit of video, here's a video, and send that over to me. I can communicate back and forth very easily of what was going on. So.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. And as we continue to talk about that human touch, as we go touchless, there's other things that I know you do that might not seem so obvious at first to maintain that human touch. Like as an example, like when someone rents a unit online, you're doing some things. Like there's some things you're doing around birthdays. And talk to me a little about creating that human touch as you onboard your new tenants and take care of the current ones you have.
So what I've really learned is, we keep on talking about this going back, and I think customer service is one of the things that I had some pretty deep thoughts yesterday and keep going back to this, but it is one of the things that will make or break a facility is that customer service thing. So a couple little things that I like to do, obviously to raise my rentals once a month, I send out reminders saying, hey, friends and family, we do a referral discount. So if you're not doing that in your own facility, please do. Sometimes your best tenants are the ones that can refer their friends and family to you. The other thing that I do is a unique little touch is that when somebody is renting a unit from us, they're required to give their driver's license and their date of birth, to verify, hey, if anything would ever happen, we can verify who you are. I capture that date of birth and I'll put it into my calendar. And when their birthday comes up, it's a simple little email saying, hey, thank you for continuing, or happy birthday, and just thank you for renting with us. It's not a sales thing. It's not anything else. It's just that little bit of touch where I'm saying, hey, happy birthday. Everybody deserves that on their special day, at least in my opinion. So.
Yeah, and you were telling me, we got Cassidy jumping in, but one second, Cassidy. And the other thing that Anthony was telling me, and we'll take their question, that you do is like you take a time to give a genuine thank you. Like you even said, like sometimes I'll leave voicemails, I'll send a text message, and it's not just saying thank you, it's how we do it. It's when you do it. It's that genuine nature of like, hey, I'm really grateful that you placed your business with us. Thank you for continuing to place your business with us too. It's things like that you've mentioned that you do, that I think it's just those little things that we forget. Sometimes we forget to say thank you, and it's just so normative. The new tenants come, the new tenants go. We kind of get a little cold sometimes. So that's a good tip that you gave me the other day. But Cassidy, looks like you got a question from the audience, so come on and jump in.
I do, yes, thank you. Good question about the referral program. Anthony, are you seeing success with that referral program that you mentioned? And if so, how are you structuring it so it makes sense or is worthwhile for you and your customers?
So I've owned this particular facility for about 8 months now. I've gotten 2 rentals out of it. What my structure is for it is I will do a $25 off the next month's rent. So I'll structure it like this. So if they refer friends and family, and whoever the new customer will be, I will generally give them, say 50% off their first month. Their first month's rent, and then I'll give a $25 discount off of if they on their second month of that new customer staying, I'll go in and I'll put a credit in on the referral customer. So that way I make sure that they're long enough there to make that revenue back. Plus, the reason I can kind of do that and justify that is because of an administration fee. I look at my admin fee as $21, when they move in. Basically, I'm at $4 loss, on it. I consider kind of almost a little bit of a wash. I'm getting a new customer for a longer term, and I'm also thanking the current customer that's there.
Awesome. Super helpful. Thank you.
And I think the other 1-2 punch you're kind of doing, Anthony, is not only just asking for referrals, but asking your customers for reviews. Do you want to talk a little bit how you're gaining more Google and Yelp reviews?
So what I'm doing is I'm waiting typically I wait about 4 or 5 days after the first rental to go in, and I just simply send a quick email saying, hey, would you mind doing a Google, or how's your experience been? I want to make sure that do you have any questions? Do you have any that follow up? And if I'm getting some good feedback, is well, hey, the best compliment, I'm glad that everything's working well for you. I'm glad you're super happy. And I'll give this as a little bit of one of my trade secrets that I've always done is, could you do me a favor? Could you help me out? And most of the customers are like, yeah, sure, Anthony, you've been awesome, I appreciate you. I said, well, could you do a Google review for me? That would be the best compliment. Yeah, I know that you can call, you can say thank you to me all day long, everything else like that. But the best compliment that you can do is take 30 seconds and go write a quick Google review. If you wouldn't mind, I'll send you the link, because that not only lets future customers know, hey, our facility, we really do take care of you. We want your business, and we appreciate it. That lets other people know, and not just me. So that's the best thing you can do.
And it sounds like you earned the review, right? You didn't just hit them right out the gate, but you asked, hey, maybe you can help me out. And then you've earned that review, and it's warm and it's real, and it's, and then when they do that, you've got these genuine, non-robot looking, reviews on Google. It didn't look like you paid to have them done, right? Like you earned it, and that can come through. And I think even Google and their algorithms can tell, with that as well. So
because you'll see facilities that will all of a sudden they flood their Google reviews, and they'll go up to like 20 reviews, within a week or whatever. You'll see that in the past week, and Google will catch on to that. Obviously they'll go from 20 down to like 12. And be like, hey, what happened? Well, Google caught on to maybe that you had some friends or family or somebody else, go in and flood it. So.
Yeah, we did a previous webinar with a lead gen expert who really dials in Google for folks, and even it gets down to the photography on your website. Google will look to see if you used like just stock photos or if you went out and actually took photos. It's just, what I got from that webinar and what I'm getting from you now is like, if you just do the right thing, if you just take care of customers, ask the right thing, put a little extra time on your website, and make it genuine and real and effort, like it's wild how Google can pick that up and elevate your status in your Google business to earn more business for you. Google is trying to serve up, here are the actual folks. It's not just how much money you're lining Google's pockets with advertising. They actually are looking for those websites and the language on the site to cater to their audience. Because that, if you think about it, I just heard when I was on a webinar a couple of weeks ago, like this industry just started getting rid of the yellow pages, right, as advertising. Google is the new area. I think everyone watching knows that, but I don't think we always know, like, how do I leverage that? And is there any other tips besides like what I'm giving that you would want to give around this topic too, Anthony?
As far as Google, just make sure that you're active in it, at least once a week. You don't have to go post anything or, like your Google business page. One of the things that I make sure that I try and do is I'm not always the best, sometimes forgetful, but at least once a week or every other week, just to go post an update. I'll post pictures of different things that we're doing around the facility, or maybe a special that we're running and stuff like that. And that's one thing that Google does like to see, is that you're active, with your business, and that you're keeping up on things, posting, even if it's a picture. So I'll give you kind of that idea, going back to the maintenance. One of my requirements of our maintenance personnel is he's there twice a week. And so every Monday I get fresh pictures. I tell him, go take 5 random pictures of the facility and just send it back to me. I'll download those pictures and I'll pick 1 or 2 of them and I'll upload them to Google saying, hey, we just installed this, or we just did this facility, or, hey, we've got a Thanksgiving or a Black Friday special, just using it as an example. So.
That's great. I think you're currently actively working with one of your clients around getting that Google presence and even some software that you're helping them to put on for tenant management. Do you want to talk a little about like your current customer? Like I think this customer is very relatable, because it sounds like they've gone from like, hey, I haven't even had to worry about anything digital, like, oh boy, here we go, starting to onboard them into going from the yellow pages to Google. So how have you started to help them with that?
I started off as a consulting and actually picking them up as property management. So this current facility was about 7 months, 7 months ago. And they had a current regular residential property management, and the guys, they know me pretty well. They've called me a couple times, asked me some questions, and that's one thing that you and I have found about, and you'll agree with me about the self-storage industry, is that we just give information away. We're here to help people really succeed in this industry. It's one thing that I absolutely love about it. So I was helping them, and through the conversations with them, and I said, well, let me take a look at this for you. And kind of and then made some suggestions. Here's what I do. 1, 2, 3, let's put on software. Let's get you on. There's no website presence. There's no Google presence. It's kind of like a blank slate. It's just a place with the sign out in front. So that's currently the process that I'm going through with them. You talk about Google. Google is not fun to get verified. Anybody and everybody who has tried to do a Google business verification, I've done it. Yesterday I had to run back up there, hour and a half there, hour and a half back, just to do a 10-minute video to try and get verified one more time. And then my last kind of like is put in a help desk ticket with Google. Hopefully we can get it go through, but to get them verified on Google, because everybody knows Google is king. That's what's going to make it, you know, show up in most searches and stuff like that. So one of the processes is, you know, getting them a web presence. We've got our website going up and live. I've got the software switched over, or software up and running with all the current customers on them. And then now my process is started last week, is contacting every single customers and saying, hey, exact same thing I would do. It's easier, much easier to do on a smaller facility, to call each one of the customers and get in contact with them and saying, hey, we're going to be switching softwares. We want to make this much easier for you guys to go online, pay your bill, set you up on auto pay. We're going to be able to sign leases and really get the facility up and running to today's standards is what my goal is. And I'm about super close. So probably by the end of this week, we'll be right there, right where I want to be.
Yeah, no, that sounds great. I know I met with someone yesterday who's still doing everything paper-based, right? They just happen to be in a rural part of the country. Everything's paper. They haven't transitioned even to what you're talking about. And I'll ask you a little bit about what platform you use in a second, but it's almost kind of like, hey, I'm going from paper into my CRM system, which we'll talk about here in a second, and going paperless and getting DocuSigns, getting everything connected. And if I'm already there, it's like, how do I take that to the next level, which you're talking about, like the customer management, seeing where they are. It's little things as their birthdays, but also just managing your tenants in that way and keeping good records in case you have different staff coming in. You want to make sure, and if you decide to continue to expand or add more facilities, like having that proper infrastructure to grow as well as just to maintain. We've talked and heard so much like the importance of just maintaining those tenants and how critical that is. It's one thing to go off and try to get the new tenants, but maintaining them and what it takes under the hood to do that properly. So maybe you can talk to us a little bit about helping that one customer you're still helping, going from paper-based to a CRM under the hood. What CRM are you using? And talk to us a little bit about how you've helped people make that transition too.
So the current CRM or current software, self-storage, or math asset or management software that I'm using for this particular one is Six Storage. There's several different softwares out there. Each have their own features, each have their own little nuances and things like that. But the thing that I was really leaning towards is some automations. We go back to where they push. Refer back to a little bit and push on, where technology was really pushed in self-storage, and be able to grab a software that's able to automatically send out, invoices, even invoices 7 days before, 2 days before their payments due. It'll send them a text message. All the little things to remind somebody, hey, you've got a payment coming up. And be able to do that. The nice, obviously, thing that I like about it is I'm able to completely run, just like I'm sitting here, a facility either 8 hours away or hour and a half away from where I currently live. I work out of my office that's right here. Be able to sign somebody up right then and there. Take payments over the phone, do everything else, or refer them over, and they can easily log into the website. And log in their own account and be able to make payments or, change their address, do anything that they would need to do. But it was one of the things why I really liked Six Storage, was because of the automations that were built into the software itself, the customization, the things that I could be able to do with it. So.
Yeah, it's like moving the deck chairs, right? Like if I can find a way to automate payments, I can take that time and put this somewhere else in my business, maybe doing that human connection or warm touch, or maybe it's expanding, giving me enough bandwidth to take on another facility. But finding those ways to implement automation or using technology in thoughtful ways, and just don't try to boil the ocean, right? I think a lot of it is like, can you pick a handful of different processes in your business that you can either automate, add some technology to, and then go to the next level and put almost together a roadmap for change management. But the thing I wanted to talk about that we haven't talked about yet is not just you and your staff or 1099s, but how are you preparing your customer base to go contactless and touchless? What are the things that you're doing to get your tenants ready for this new way of doing business?
So I'm fortunate enough, I say fortunate, some people will, but actually be able to call each and every single tenant, call them, email them. I want to have that personal touch saying, hey, we were taking over as management over this facility. It's a lot of work. It is a lot of work. but that's with any transition, you know, with anything that comes with it. To be able to call them, introduce myself, whether I'm going to do it or if you're thinking about doing the same thing, or if you just bought a facility or you're thinking about changing and going over to a software, you know, to manage their facility a lot, you know, a little bit easier, push your revenues and things up, such as that. I think that's one of the biggest things. But to be able to call the customers and explain kind of, hey, even though we may have some generation that may be older, maybe not as tech savvy, trying to explain to them, this is going to be easier for you. You know, this is going to be, you'll have your own login, you'll be able to take care of your own payments, you'll be able to do everything else like that. And we're bringing the technology up and implementing this just like today's world. You know, everybody has a cell phone bill or, you know, insurance account or different things like that. We're going the same route as that. And if you have any questions or anything else like that, don't worry. We are still here. You know, you're not going to get a call. You're not going to, depending on where, you know, how you're operating your facility. But as far as I'm using my personal experience, you're still going to get either me or, you know, an assistant or something.
I love the visitor. It's great. So for those listening, Anthony's dog has come to listen to the webinar. Great looking pooch there. So one of the things I was thinking about too is just the benefits of change. Yes, it's like eating your vegetables, right, with your customers. Some still want to put cash in your hand or a check in your hand, and they're very weary of putting their credit card information online. Maybe they've been scammed before. Maybe there's a reason why. But calling them, like Anthony's saying, walking them through the process, like this this nonprofit I sit on the board with, we went from all cash-based collection to digital, and it was difficult, and it took a year to get there. But now the benefits is that it's almost like a crystal ball. I know exactly what we're going to be receiving in revenue every month because it's all in the system, and I can see the folks. I can see even when people miss payment. We can call on them, but it gives you a better sense of your cash flow as well. So it's going to be a little friction with some customers at first, but each one you can migrate over, it just continues to pay dividends.
And I had it, you know, on the facility that I own, I had to do the same thing. That's one of the biggest worries is, you know, going to a cashless based system, trying to explain to them, and I still get it to this day where, you know, the customer who I was using an example earlier, she was kind of like, well, it never used storage before, so I jumped on there, and she was like, well, I'm just going to drop by, I'm just going to run by and run a check by. I'm like, I got to explain to you. I said, you know, I appreciate that, but you know, at this time we are completely cashless. We do everything by credit or debit card because we don't allow our maintenance facility or maintenance personnel to handle any cash, any payments, or anything else like that. We just don't. I don't want it to go missing. And I explained the reason that we do this is because we run the facility remotely, and I don't want your payment to go missing. Say, hey, you know, you told me you handed it to the maintenance personnel, and the maintenance personnel says they never got it or they never was there. So who wins? You know, you got to make sure your customer's right.
So it sounds like having the proper answers and directing. I love how you're saying, like, hey, we don't want to miss your payment. You're making it about them, not about you. But at the end of the day, it does make it easier for them. And working through that customer experience, you know, is something we want to see every step along the way. I'm going to invite Cassidy to come back up. As Anthony, do you have any other thoughts you want to add before we get into our Q&A session of the webinar? Anything else you want to add?
No, I was like, we covered a lot, man. And I absolutely love this. You know, I've been able to use LiveSwitch, you know, a few times, and just very, very impressed.
Oh, thank you for that. And by the way, we don't pay Anthony to say any of this stuff. We don't, actually, Anthony and I just met, you know, cold turkey, and we've been getting to know each other. And after I met Anthony for the first time, I was like, oh, we've got to bring him in front and put him out here because you have a lot of gold nuggets today that you've already shared. That we're hopeful that everyone who's tuned in has at least been able to take 1, 2, or 3 things that they can decide, hey, I'm going to make those changes at my business and get my customers ready for this new way of doing contactless self-storage. Cassidy, what questions are we getting from the audience that we can tackle?
Absolutely. Have a few questions here. Also some feedback, great content. So thank you both for the time. First question for you, Anthony, how do you evaluate a new technology and how do you justify the cost if it's something that's completely new to you, you haven't used before?
I really take a look at it as one of the biggest factors, and James and I really talked about this, is the cost is the size of your facility. Obviously, bigger facilities have a lot bigger budget and stuff like that. I look at, and me personally, I look at a new technology as how is this going to, we go back, I will say two things. I go back to like software. How is this going to make managing and running the operations of this facility more streamlined, more easier? How can I automate things? But I also look at it as what does it, how can it, I'm very customer service oriented. You guys can tell by this webinar. How can it better serve my customers as well? I think it's definitely a great question because there's so many softwares, so many tech stacks that you can add, but you get to a point where what do I pick and choose for the budget that I have? And that's something that you got to look at. If you look at your facility, some facilities are more, I could say, we'll get more phone calls, have a lot more activity. No matter the size, they'll have a lot more activity. And that's one thing that I look at, a biggest factor is your activity at your facility.
Yeah. And from our point of view, because I've started a number of my own nonprofits and businesses, and I'm a bootstrapper at heart. Whether I'm working on a Fortune 500 or a startup or a nonprofit, I'm always looking at value to spend, right? If I'm spending X, how much value am I going to squeeze out of that? And each one of my software or anything I purchase, really, whether it's a vehicle or a facility or it's software, it's how much value to spend. So, and am I looking at it the right way? Because sometimes I'll look at things and I'll be like, man, that's not for us. But then I need someone to explain how it's getting used, how it's being implemented. Then I can do the back of the envelope, like, okay, here's how much it costs. Here's the value I'm going to squeeze. And I'm like, oh, this actually makes complete sense for us to, like when I was talking about accepting digital payments, it costs money for us to do that. And I was like, well, I can just take cash. Like, why would I do that? Until I step back and was like, oh, what happens when people don't forget to pay or don't pay cash or forget what they need to be given to us? So it made sense, from that point of view. But what other questions do we have, Cassidy?
Absolutely. Thank you. Next question. Earlier, you mentioned sales and support, the importance of customer service. How do you approach the sales style training for both of those groups? Do you have any top tips to make sure that stellar customer experience flows through both of those groups?
I think one of the things is just asking the right questions. I can kind of go through and not to be too broad or, like that, but make sure you're asking the right questions. Going back to my days as a trainer, hiring and everything else like that, we had our sales scripts and different things like that. But one of the things that we always ask is, we want to find out if their customer is willing to provide the information. What brings the need for storage? So that kind of gives you an idea of that question right there. Say, okay, cool. Well, what brings the need for storage? That'll give you the idea of what's going on in their life and a lot of the time frame that they're going to need. Well, hey, James, what's the need for storage? You tell me I'm going to be selling my house or I'm putting my house on the market. Right there, I can tell you just from my experience, okay, so most likely your realtor is telling you to declutter your house or, put a few things in storage. Or I'm going to be moving from place to place. That tells me you're going to need a larger unit probably. Different little nuances like that. Another key is how long are you going to be needing? How long do you think you're going to be needing storage for? Is another sales question that I ask. And so people, why are you asking that question? That leads to, well, you don't want to put yourself in a non-climate unit for longer than 6 months, especially furniture. It leads to those questions, being able to teach your salespeople those specific questions. Make sure that you're leading your customer down to choosing the right size, the right unit, whether it be climate, non-climate, or if they need to be, if it's multi-story, if they need to be on the first floor, kind of, really what they're looking for and be able to direct them to the best unit for them.
And one thing I'll add to that as well, having talked to owner operators, to publicly traded self-storage companies, the issue is, where is the eyeballs, right? Is the eyeballs physically on site or are the eyeballs online, right? And how am I going to convert those prospects to tenants? Whether it's on the website? Is everything clear? If they wanted to talk to someone, can they chat with them? Can they live video with them really quick? Can they call us? And are my salespeople ready? Are we going to answer the phone? Are we going to be there? And eyeballs happen at all 24/7, right? Like those customers might be up at midnight shopping for where they're going to place their business. And are we ready to get them? And is it convenient? Is it safe? Are my salespeople up and ready? And then physically on site, like I literally talked to an owner operator. He's like, James, one of my biggest at risks are when I go get lunch, because I live on site basically. But when I leave for 30 minutes, if somebody comes up to the door and they look in there and it's nobody's in there, I lose business. So we've had to engineer like what we need to do. Okay, here's our phone numbers, here's our QR codes, here's how we're going to be able to, while you're eating lunch, still talk to your customer and not miss that crucial business that comes by. And is your sales team ready for that? And is your facility equipped for that? And have you gone on site? Have you pretended to be the customer? Have you asked the customer, talk to the customer, especially the new ones? How did you find us? How did you get there? How is my team? Like, talk to them. They will give you the answer to the test. But there's ways to mitigate this, the 24/7, the having no one on site. There's ways to mitigate that, still give the human connection, still close at a high rate, and actually still give incredible customer experience. So, you know, we're here to help with that too, but I know a lot of it is just kind of this blocking and tackling that Anthony has been talking about with the crucial questions you ask. Kathy, maybe we'll take one more.
I just want to add to that a little bit. I mean, I think it is a user interface or something else like that. I'm always looking at it from a customer. I always presume that they have never used self-storage before. How is this going to work? How is this going to be the easiest thing for them to do for somebody who's never done this before to be able to go through this process and make them feel comfortable and knowing that? And that's why, you know, that is that customer service that you want to give. Just like they've never entered the unit before, they've never been through this, and make them feel easy about, hey, that was easy. That's not bad at all.
Absolutely. Love it. And I have one last one, James, ending on a good one here. I'm also curious about this answer. Anthony, what resources do you use for continued learning and education about the industry, about marketing? We know that the Google algorithm is always changing, for example, and new technology that's available.
One of the things I use to really pay attention to is the SSA, National Self-Storage Association. They have a website, you know, and I'm constantly on there. I'm a nerd about it. The other thing I learned about too is I'm, you know, not super active, but fairly active and connected with a lot of people in the industry on LinkedIn, that business side, and be able to see kind of the new things that are coming out, the different industry, you know, within the industry and stuff like that. So those are the two really that I follow.
And what about, here, let me throw you a T-ball here. What about your Facebook group, Anthony? Like having mastermind group. Come on, like you're out there. Like,
I'm sorry,
give so much.
Dude, James, I'm very humble about it. Yeah, and I do run a Facebook group. So self-storage, we'll do a little bit of promotion. Self-storage, networking, and acquisitions. Facebook group. I encourage everybody to join. Just make sure you do fill out all the questions. Otherwise, they get rejected automatically. I do that to make sure that we keep the spam down in the group. But each and every single week on Wednesdays, 11 o'clock Eastern time, I host a Zoom. We typically bring in, you know, different vendors, different people. That's actually, James reached out to me and we had a good talk about LiveSwitch. And I was like, I saw James and I saw how passionate he was about this product. I've never, and this is no, honestly, James, this is something that I haven't seen anybody for a long time being like, dude, you had the passion about this product. You see how it can be not just in self-storage, but just in the different industries as well, and your passion behind it. I was like, this guy needs to be on. I need to get him on. And when we did bring you on for that, you know, that weekly networking, that Zoom to present LiveSwitch, we had a lot of people who were super impressed and immediately reached out to you to be like, I need to implement this into, you know, either my third-party management company or, you know, things that they're doing.
Yeah, I think for our point of view, and thank you for that, Anthony, we are really passionate about disrupting industries in the right way and making it affordable to do so. Being the new guys on the block here, we came in, I wasn't even trying to be in self-storage. Our company didn't even know we were headed this direction. But as we came into this community, and you guys are so tight-knit, we saw a few things. And some of the things that technology-wise, some of the stuff's really expensive. And I was like, wow, we can do this at a fraction of the cost, and as well as give a great customer experience, because we just happen to be a video company. We typically will compete against like the Zooms and the Googles, but for us to come in, we're like, we see an opportunity where Zoom is not going to come in here. Google's not coming in here. Like, we're coming in here to take video, which is what we do really well, and put this in the hands of you, but also your end user. We're really passionate about your end users, even more than actually our self-storage companies. We want to make sure that that end user has a great experience every single time, gets their needs met, because we know that that's your most important thing. That's your customers are your most important thing.
I could imagine trying to explain to somebody who may not be as tech savvy, be like, all right, we need to go to Zoom. I need to do, no, this is, hey, hang on a second. I'm going to send you a text message, and then click allow, and then we're good to go. I'll visit with you for a few minutes and get you on your way, so that you, like I said before, I treat everybody just like they never used storage before. That's also one of the sales questions that I also ask too, where we refer back is, have you used self-storage before? Because then I can take it as a little bit different approach. But I always start off as, hey, you've never used it before. Let me make this a great experience for you.
Yeah, that is, and it's so applicable. I've been part of some very fast-growing companies and building companies from 9 people to billions. And the things that really matter across, and I don't care, what business you're running, we always make our staff who are going to be building products read a book called Simple by Alan Siegel. And it means that we're not using acronyms. We're using language everybody can understand. We're very transparent. We're quick to get back to people. We want to make sure customers are happy according to them and not us. And these type of principles that we put in, I don't care if I'm, in a landscaping company or a clinical research company, you start implementing these things, you're going to see dramatic impact to your customer satisfaction and the growth of your business. So, Anthony, it's been so great having you on today. We're just grateful to have your expertise. Please reach out to Anthony. Please join his Facebook group. I've been part of it. It's fantastic. It's worth your time, and we're part of getting into these mastermind groups. So in the last phase of the webinar, we used to never do this, but if you're like, I want to see the technology, if you've already seen our technology, feel free to drop off now. If you haven't, we're going to take the next 5-10 minutes to talk through the technology. Anthony, you're welcome to kind of pitch in and like, hey, this is how I'm using it, or here's what I'm doing. And we're just going to walk through it. I'm going to show my screen. And please confirm you can see it.
You got it.
Okay, we're good to go. All right. So everything here, there's going to be 2 things. And as you digest this, I want you to think of it like what we were talking about during the webinar, like find a few ways to implement and then grow from there. So we're going to start with the easiest thing to implement first, which is text to connect. This is where, when you go into this product, it's called LiveSwitch Contact, you can text most any number globally. Now, I don't know, we have some folks that are international, and we have folks that deal with some customers internationally, but I'm going to put my own number in here. It's not ideal. Typically, I would put like Anthony's number, but I'm not going to put your phone number here in front of everything. But here's my phone number, and I'm going to act like a self-storage company, right? My customer is there. They're saying, I got a problem at the gate, or hey, I'm thinking about placing, like they could be on site. I'm thinking about renting a unit, but I'm not sure what size. Hey, can I send you a text? Yes, and then you can send them a text. So I'm going to send myself a text. And we don't care what you have, a PC, a Mac, an iPhone, an Android, an iPad, it doesn't matter. There's no apps to download, no apps for your customer to download, no apps for you to download. And I have sent myself a text here while I'm talking, so bear with me as I'm multitasking. I got a text and I'm ready. I'm ready as a self-storage. Hey, I'm Krupa self-storage, or I'm Hatfield self-storage. I'm clicking the link and it's taking me, I'm now here from the customer side. It takes me right to, I just click my text and it takes me, it says, all I have to do is allow the camera. If I don't allow the camera, then this won't work. But this is all the customer has to do, allow the camera, and we're going to be on. That was it. Tap a text, tap allow, and here I come. I'm going to mute everything. So I'm muted. But you're going to see me here, and I can even flip the camera and say, well, this isn't a gate, but there's my hammock hanging out, swinging out. I'm in Asheville, North Carolina. Hey, I'm at the gate. I can't get in. Oh yeah, or hey, like Anthony said, there's a leaky, I think you had like a leak or a water problem, and I'm recording everything, and even I can take remote photos. So I just took a remote photo, I'm recording everything, I'm helping the customer, I'm documenting their experience, and I'm gonna end this call really quick because I think you guys understand what we're doing there. But the beauty is, let's say you had a remote agent helping someone and the customer was like, hey, your agent was swearing at me up and down, like, ooh, or vice versa. Most of the self-storage companies I talk like, it's not us that's swearing, it's the customer swearing at us. but you'll have a documentation of like, this is how we treat customers, or let the record show, or here, protection company or insurance company, here's what's going on. You'll have all of that, but you'll have also met that customer from 8 hours away. That's what Anthony did the other day. 8 hours away, was able to take care of his facility. So this is the first way and the most popular way that we get used, text to connect. Second way is a video Dropbox. So let's say Anthony doesn't need to be on the other end. It's just like, hey, go cut the grass. I'm going to send you a text. Can you please take a video before and after where you cut the grass, and I'll issue payment. So you can use it for that. Or the third way is instant recording. Literally, you can just get on your phone, click a button, click the start recording button, and start recording a 10-second video or a 10-hour video. What our self-storage companies are using this is when they go on site and they have auctions, right? They'll go in and they'll just video the whole auction, what's going on. And then you can download that, send it to, if you use an auction company. And that's a quick way to use the instant recording. Or like Anthony said, if he just needs someone to go, hey, I know you go every couple of weeks, can you go and check us out and make sure that everything looks well, and take a video for me. And then everything, go ahead.
Yeah, you made a really good point about auctions as well. That's something to actually capture and make sure you keep that information of a video. Maybe not, for listening to auction, but for, legal purposes as well. It's, hey, when we opened up the unit, typically when if somebody does, unfortunately, go into lien status, you got to cut the lock, open up the unit, we typically have 2 people. So you could have one person sitting there recording that information. And that's kept, it's kept online all the time. And so if anything would ever come back, you could use it that way as well. I'm just saying, like, hey, here's when we opened up the unit, here's exactly what it looked like. Nobody touched anything, nobody did anything from the door. From the time the unit was open, we took a couple pictures, we closed the door. Here's this door seal tag, here's everything else, and, for that proof of liability.
Absolutely. And you have unlimited usage, unlimited storage. Like, just go to town and it'll be right here. Here's the video I literally just took a download of me showing you guys. I can take pictures of the video, copy this video, download the video, watch it at 2x speed. There's a picture I took of the hammock. And your bandwidth can be terrible for the video Dropbox. Like, we have folks that have, remote sites, but you can still get beautiful videos and pictures from that as well. So that's all LiveSwitch contacts. So I want you to think text to connect, video Dropbox, instant recording. The next piece that all of our self-storage companies have purchased is this app called LiveSwitch Concierge. So the first one, that's where you start. Get going, get rolling. The second piece is 2 ways that customers can come in. You put your agents. Again, we were talking about having overseas agents today, but it can be agents even in a different state, or 8 hours away, right? And customers can come in through 2 different ways. One is directly from a website. I was just meeting with Homegrown Storage here earlier. You can put a bell on the website, click, the customers come in. Let's say the customer doesn't know if they need a small, medium, or large unit. I'm like, I don't know what I need. I can come in here, start a call. Instead of just doing chat, it goes right to a video. So now I'm getting pinged. My agents will get pinged if I don't answer, and I can answer this right from wherever you are sitting in the world. And I have to mute everything or it'll give me echo chamber. But hey, I'm right on the Homegrown site. Welcome to Homegrown Self-Storage. Oh, I can't decide if I need what size unit, or how big is it going to cost, how much is it going to cost for my boat, or do you even do boats and RVs? And I'm right on the site. My customer never has to download a thing, worry about Zoom, worry about Google, worry about any of that. They're just right there talking to your agent. And the agent can share the screen. Let me cover the tenant agreement. Let me cover our pricing. Let me cover how we do, units that are multi-story, or, temperature controlled. They can talk all through that, close the business right there, and now your sales team is enabled to do this selling, again, from anywhere. They don't have to be in the office. So that's mode 4. And the last mode I'll show you, and then in the demo here, is through QR codes. So you can put QR codes at your physical locations and put as many as you want. So let's say I've got a location in Lexington, Kentucky, and I want to put this on the outside of my building, right? As an example, when the individual is going out for a sandwich earlier, going out for lunch, they don't want to miss any customers. They create this QR code, and you can take this QR code and put it on the building. Let me show you an example. People are always like, oh, you have an example of someone? Let me just bring up a quick example. There's one that our customer has, that's Smart Lock Storage. They have a QR code, rent me online, right there. And that literally Jonah was walking us around his facility, showing us how he uses his QR codes. That's from a picture from last week. And then here's another example on the front door, always open. Click that. See, now you're not losing the business at lunch. They scan that, you're getting a text. I'll get a text, someone's scanned it, and I can answer it right there. I can eat my Subway sandwich and taking care of customer calls, right? So not a problem. So these QR codes, put them inside the building, outside the building. You are where your customer is at, digitally online or physically at the location. That's what LiveSwitch is really all about. That's the demo. Anthony, anything else you want to add before we shut down our time together?
Man, I mean, I love it. I absolutely love it. The technology is there, and it's one of the things that it's definitely implemented in, in our facilities. So.
Love it. Well, thank you for joining us. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. Reach out if you need to talk with Anthony or myself or Cassidy. We're here for you. Have a great rest of the day, and thank you for the time.
Appreciate the time, James. Thanks, Cassidy.
Thank you. Bye, everyone.